We should be starting here soon. Looks like it's going. I'll go away. All right. Well, here we are. And I'm just going to start this off. And anyway, tonight for a special Happy New Year's thing, I'm going to be doing a short set of photos from 2005, August 2005. This is during when they were last doing a rehab at the Susquehanna River Bridge at Perryville. And I just was hanging out by the back of the Amtrak train, making sure that I could, just document what was going on. And I was doing other things, mainly a sort of best NEC survey one could do with such a small SD card. Or, wasn't even, it was smart media. But anyway, I'm just going to have about 40 photos tonight. Gonna be nice and quick. Get these dealt with, and then off I go. And you guys can enjoy the rest of your night. So these things are going to be mainly NEC, like signal interlocking photos, and then I said the bridge repair sequence. So we start off at what was then new the RUTHBY interlocking. Which at the time was quite interesting as being a new install of position lights, and I hadn't seen, that had not been something that had really gone on before, and we were all sort of bracing for the death, but this was a PLs on a modern structure, and what RUTHBY was for was for the expanded Newark service on SEPTA. Tracks there are 1, 2, 3, and A being the farthest to the right-hand side of the screen here. And what Delaware paid for was a high-speed turnout, so trains could both could exit and enter the Newark station at full track 80 miles an hour instead of being on approach medium through Davis interlocking. Now I was just on that line and they crossed them over at Davis. So I don't know if Delaware ever got their money. I don't even think the SEPTA trains got even received the ability to pick up that the 80 mile an hour high speed cab signal. I'm never sure they got the modification for that. Anyway, here we are at the Davis's. Looks like it's actually a level there. It's interesting. The southbound signal bridge at Davis, and the siding switch, and we can just go to our blockstation.net reference. Davis, there's Davis. That would be the 37 switch onto the Pomeroy track. Whoops. I do have the names up, but I'm not sure I even did that one because it was probably soft. Here we have, maybe I stuck that under towers. Nah, well. Let's see how far I can get this down. The right aspect ratio, there we go. This is going to be a pain. Come on. Oh, well, so here we have Davis and the 21 switch. Or I could just say Davis plus the interlocking northbound. Probably a better name for it. That's who I called it back in the day. I've tried my best at... Here it is. Oh. Yeah, fair enough. That was a pretty good name. Anyway, moving on. Yeah, I've tried my best over the years to get photos of the various parts of Davis interlocking. Let's see if I can find that one. Whatever I called it. That's not it. I was just down there actually for my midwinter trip, taking the SEPTA afternoon express turn. There's a 310 express out of Center City. This it? This the one? That's the one, I think. Yeah, it looks like I did some whatever on it. Anyway, and it gets you down to Newark by 4:15. There's a lot of padding because you got to wait for Amtrak doesn't want any delays, so they have a lot of padding on that. But you'll get in there by about 4:15, and there's a 4:45 that heads back. First stop Chester or last stop Chester. Really fast run, really fun. I liked it. So if you ever want one of the best runs on regional rail, that SEPTA, especially if you get a Silverliner 5 with the front windows. And that drops you off right at the, like I said, Davis interlocking. Here we have what looks to be a typical auto gantry, but it's actually this northbound home signal of iron interlocking, which is the end of the A track. As you can see here in the iron, this is A123. So that would be the one end signal attached to the 416 automatics at iron interlocking. Now let's just see what I can do to get the right aspect ratio there, and trying to get rid of the door, the door frame. So this would be iron one end plus the 415 autos. .416 with a clear signal on track 2. Here we go. Bada bing, bada boom. Got that one nice all done. So there's a detector in there too. Now we're cutting ahead to Prince interlocking. Or no, this is Bacon. I think it was always known as Bacon. I'm not sure, or maybe it was Northeast. At some point, it was known as Bacon. Not entirely sure why. Nope, I'm going the wrong way there. There's Bacon. That'll be the 23 switch at Bacon. Have to detint this one. I probably popped inside the car because the conductor was coming or something. For a while, I was thinking that these, back when they had these installed, the new 45-mile-an-hour turnouts, there was a brief thing with the movable point frogs. We were thinking that they were high speed. The high-speed ones have 3-point machines instead of just 2. Metro North, you don't need 3-point machines. Metro North was able to pull that off with just 2, or just 1 actually, but the Amtrak uses 2, 3 on their high-speed 80-mile-an-hour switches. And again, this is the 23 switch. What do I use for their things? Yeah, see, I was calling it a high-speed turnout back in 2005, which is just wrong. Same with this. They look, these look like they're, designed for something higher speed with the with dual back drives and but they're number 20s. They might be something. Maybe they're anticipating a higher speed. Like maybe you could do 60 on that, but they just they give you limited clear. like anything else. This would be the 21 switch at Bacon. This is, of course, right after it got rebuilt. There are a lot of really rough interlockings that got rebuilt back in the day, but they, surprisingly, I don't think they went through the whole process. Like, Holly always needed to be, and you could really, I'm not sure, maybe they did rebuild that one. I can't remember. But by the mid-2000s, a lot of the interlockings on Amtrak were really rough. And that wears down your equipment, too, so. Here, still at Bacon, we got the northbound home signal here with a clear on track 2. I used to describe signal things as their in terms of their absolute position. Like this is the south, east, northwest. But I generally found it better to use the direction of travel. So the south gantry is for northbound trains, mainly because you can abbreviate northbound, southbound is SBNB, EB, WB as that's a pretty standard way of doing it. Here we have a really interesting section of the NEC by right before Prince interlocking. It's almost just it goes to two track. I mean, a lot of the south, even though the part south of Bacon is been 2 tracks, it always seemed to be graded for more. And except for this one part by Principo interlocking, previous page, right here at milepost 57. Where it seemed that it's actually graded for 2 tracks, and the catenary backs that up. So it makes you wonder why the PRR basically allowed for 3 or 4 tracks up to this like little tiny segment. Got me. And of course, here we have Prince interlocking. I don't know. I don't have a diagram of how this was configured back in the day. It was different. They did move some of the signals around. Today, this is the crossover and also entrance to a maintenance away base. Balance that out a little bit better. Nah, that's a bad name. There's an interesting, let me see if it's true here. It doesn't look like it. I was told that there was an interesting interlock at Prince, but it doesn't appear evident, where crossing over on the 23 switches is being performed here. would require one to also reverse the O2 switch into the yard as a form of a route protection. These aren't. This is more popular in Europe. Does not tend to be seen in the United States. That way, a train that misses a stop signal would go into the yard instead of colliding. But in this case, you can see you got a reverse 23 switch, and O2 is not reverse at all. It's still normal. I might have gotten that wrong. Maybe it's... I don't know. If the O2 is reverse out of the yard, maybe you have to also reverse the 20. I don't know. It's it does. Maybe I probably heard it could have been also something with a previous configuration of the interlocking before it was redone in 2005. Prince was one of the ones that was also pretty rough. And here we have the complete 23 switch. Should probably mark that as a rev. Also, I don't need to save that in such a high quality. There you go. Here we have the complete 23 switch with the yard lead. Interesting that the yard lead does not allow for, it's past the crossover. Again, I think the interlocking used to be configured in a different way. They couldn't really move the yard, but they did move the crossovers. Well, that's it for set 1. Time for set 2. And it's going to be just 3 sets tonight. Yeah, I got a lot of pictures there because the train was moving so slowly. Here we're getting into the Susquehanna Bridge set, but that's for later. Give me a few minutes to get there. Let's see what's up in the chat. Yep, Happy New Year, everyone. All right, continuing on. Here we have the 21 or what is it? I can never forget. 32 switch. Here. Let's see how far up I can go. Not looking good. That's good. Yeah, this is pretty new actually. Just gotta get the color balance right. There it goes. I forget how you do to tell A or B. Like each half of a turnout switch is usually a directional, like NW or EWNS, or A or B. I forget how Amtrak does it with A or B. Yeah, because we were slowed down for the switch, I was able to get all these pictures of Prince and you can see that's the old limits. So those 2 signal bridges there, those represent the old limits of the interlocking before Amtrak came in and this was done in the NECIP, the Northeast Corridor Improvement Project. This was readjusted, but I don't have an original diagram of what was at Prince before Amtrak put in these crossovers and the end of the Perry tracks. Here we are seeing switches 12 and 43. And finally, you have the signal bridge at Prince interlocking. I don't get a lot of NEC photos looking northbound, primarily because when I usually are doing this stuff, oftentimes I would be returning to south late. I usually return south later at night, so I don't have any real ability to get these. I did, but just wasn't as often. And before they put the baggage car in the back, I was kind of lazy about it too. One other interesting thing about Prince is that you have only three. I don't know why they did this. Probably because siding length. They wanted to optimize siding length. You got a mass signal there, and the other three are on the gantry. And you got this little old school bridge that blocks the view of it from the other way. It's hard to tell it's even there sometimes. Yeah, it'll be nice to get these all dealt with. Here we have the southbound signal bridge at Perry interlocking, and also this does double duty as the mounting bracket for the phase brake signals. Now I know that the PRR used to run it with the phase brake, like Metro North, with the phase brake signals either always, partly illuminated for inactive, or fully illuminated for active. And the phase brake signals are bare position light or a bare position ring that let you know if a phase brake is active. Amtrak had 3 power zones. They were Penn Station was one. Then between there on the main line there to Perryville, and on the Harrisburg line out to Thorndale. And then you had everything south of here to DC, and then might have been in the same zone as Harrisburg. I'm not sure if if they counted a phase break or something on the Port Road, if the Harrisburg section was isolated or not. But Perryville is one of the very few sections of the NEC where they also had breakers for the high tension, the 136 kV lines. So this was mainly if the 2 power, back in the 30s, there was no national power grid. So you could have they weren't synchronized. You had no eastern interconnect. So you could have your phase, you could have the things out of phase, and you'd have to cut power and come back on. Metro North has permanent phase breaks because they work off different. It's single phase. They work off different phase legs of the utility to avoid a phase imbalance. A load phase imbalance. Huh, it's not on this one. Oh well. I can't remember the last time those phase break signals have ever been activated. I've never seen them activated, and I could ask around. But I seriously doubt that those are ever really. They might be, but I don't think they're really ever a thing anymore. Here we have Perry Tower with the Penn Central sign on it. I think that sign is still there, but it might have been partly repainted. I called that originally. Might as well. Yeah, I think that's a better job there. Shoot. All right, moving on. At the time, there were a number of interlockings on the Southern NEC that used GRS point machines of the 5G variety. They weren't dual control, so that's a different model. Here I got some pictures of these. These were eventually not too long after this. They were converted to M3s, or yeah, USNS M3s. That is the 34, 21, and 23 switches at Perry. I'm going to note down that that's a picture with 5G switches, because, and like I said, I don't have a lot of those. Bunch of interlockings had that. I'm not entirely sure which ones. Perry was definitely. But interestingly enough, Perry interlocking was always an electric plant, sort of like Bryn Mawr. You might think that they were USNS, but it was they probably had USNS. They probably had M3 switches, but it wasn't a pneumatic. PR didn't all do pneumatic plants. So here's where I just started a sequence of, I didn't try to describe it or which milepost or whatever. I just said Susquehanna Bridge repair, basically 1 to 10. So, and I was also, you can tell where the tint went away, so standing in the rear vestibule. This will probably just be able to speed right through this here. Oops. Huh, looks like I need to rename that first one. I tagged that as the first bridge repair sequence. And why not? Okay. So this would be Susquehanna Bridge repair 2. Here we have 3. So what they did is they basically single tracked over the bridge. I think they did some amount of modifications to the schedule, and this was purely a trackbed restore. Make sure it was a full. You'll see what they did later in the pictures. So you can see there's the repaired trackbed on track 2, and 3 is original. Speed on the bridge is 90 miles an hour. So it's not a huge bottleneck. I mean, they're making a lot of waves about replacing this bridge, and honestly, it's not a huge deal. It's not falling down. You know, you got to slow a little bit, but honestly, at the end of the day, you're only going to make up like trying to get what 90 up to 125 is not going to save you much over that course of the mile. Most of the east side of the bridge had been completed on the other end. Notice the rail is still welded on that far side. I guess they had to go through and make thermite welds or something. I don't know what they did with that. You can see the original Susquehanna Bridge supports there over to the right. Also notice that they're moving from a refuge system to a full-on walkway. I believe the walkways are on both sides now. And of course, here we have where they are, the inside portal of the drawspan. Drawspan is openable, but it is not interlocked. To open the bridge, I believe it's subject to something like 24-hour notice, and it's only certain windows. They have to unbolt the rails. They stop traffic and unbolt the rails. Sort of like the Bush River Bridge, although that one is within it. I mean, this bridge is between Grace and Perry, so it's pretty easy to block it off from a signaling point of view. But it is not, like I said, it is not within interlocking limits. I'm not even sure if it was, if I went back to the original, at least the semi-modern diagrams. All right, that's the end of that section. There's a good YouTube video about the bridge being opened. It takes about 30 people to do it. It's ridiculous, but they don't. There's not a lot north of the bridge that's navigable. It's basically port deposit. So every so often you get some douchebag with a high sailboat that needs them to open the bridge, and the Coast Guard probably won't let them weld it shut. I think there's some quarries and some other stuff up there. Let's see what's going on here. Midwinter trip was pretty good. A little under-attended. I attributed that to the transit heaviness. What was it? That Newark run was really, really, really fun. That's a great trip. You really, to Andrew, you missed a great run on that one. You should have come. First stop Chester. A lot of padding, unfortunately, because Amtrak. One of the guys with us lost his phone, so he couldn't come. And another guy we had coming in from Lebanon, Pennsylvania, I mixed him up with you, actually. I got a text saying, where are we meeting? And I said, we're here. And then you showed up, and I thought that was you. And he didn't, he texted me at 8:30, and we'd already be 9:30, and we'd already left. So he texted me at 8:30, and then again at 9:30, and I had no idea where this guy was. So I don't know where the hell I think he just was inside fare control still. He was coming off. The power, I don't know about NYC Subway and LAR power distribution. I'm trying to get info on that, but they're just pretty much their substation. I mean, yeah, I don't know. I think they have a line side capacity. They don't use 25 hertz transmission, and any substation can tie into a utility grid, because for the very reason that it's doing a DC conversion. Here he goes, seeing the new ties being laid across the bridge here. And there's the draw span. Again, check YouTube for there's a drone shot, a whole drone sequence of the bridge being open for a sailboat. Osprey nests. There's one right there. Are pretty common. There was one on the signal bridge for the Bush River draw. That was there for a number of years, and I have pictures of the osprey that was there. That's a maritime bird of prey. Now notice after this is the state that they took the bridge down to. kind of treacherous for walking. I'm not sure how they did crew safety, repair crew safety on this if you needed some sort of line or something. But they took it all the way down to the bare metal girders. And then, like I said, notice the thickness, how thick that outer one is. That's the load bearing for the span. And then the new ties supported a full length walkway. I'm pretty sure on both sides. Actually, hold on. Let me just do the thing there. I can go to the overhead and see what's up. So we can zoom in here on the bridge. And it appears that there is indeed a walkway on both sides of the bridge. So that's a safety improvement. Here you got another good shot of the bridge under repair. And they did this for both. It took them better part, I think, a year or so to do this. It didn't really impact a lot. They probably had to retime some things. It's one of those just minor 5 minutes schedule adjustments being made. I think that they did make some minor schedule adjustments, but it went pretty quick. This is where see those this insulated rail joint there. That's where the old Grace interlocking signal bridge used to be, right at the end of the bridge. And they after the gunpowder the Chase Maryland gunpow accident, Amtrak decided that they did not want to risk some sort of head-on freight collision right here, so they bumped Grace interlocking back about a mile or so. Well, there's the repair. That's the impetus for this thing. But here we have Grace. Another interesting thing that this is where they were trying out color light signals on the corridor. And surprisingly, it did not, quote-unquote, stick. These were recently replaced with position lights with the 562 project between Prince and Oak. Or it's currently between Prince and Grace. So going to our diagram, I go up to section index. That is the 2S signal. Now, here we're doing our two-stage crossover. Grace was simply, it was rebuilt as a high-speed turnout to get trains onto that middle track, specifically MARC trains, just to get you over without, at full speed. How often that happens, I don't know. For the longest time, that middle track was stuck at 80 miles an hour. I'm not sure why, but they did up it to 110. At some point a number of years ago, they went through and raised the speed on that track to 110. It was pretty unusable at 80. So I'm going to do a quick story here. There are a number of scheduled meets, or if a train is running late, this is where they will do a meet. For an Acela and a regional, if Acela needs to overtake a regional, this is a place they would do it. And what they do is you get crossed over at Perry, or more like you will you come in, you take the high-speed turnout, and you stop at Oak, and then the Acela Express will pass you. And my friend who was a dispatcher used to work desk 3, section 3 where this was. And that would always delay, because if you're diverging to a stop at Oak, which is the next interlocking beyond this, you'd get an approach medium coming out of Perry, and you'd hit these guys at even though it's a high speed switch, you'd still get it at a medium approach. crawl over the 80-mile-an-hour switch at 30 miles an hour and approach Oak prepared to stop. Now, what my friend would do to speed things up, he would give them the railroad through at Oak. So the train would come up. Let's say an Acela coming up behind a regional. He'd get the regional. He diverge the regional at Grace. He'd get a cab speed at coming off at Perry for an 80-mile-an-hour turnout. Then at Grace, he'd get another cab speed for an 80-mile-an-hour diverge. So as soon as the train was either right at or near Grace, he'd take the signal away at Oak, which would be set straight. He'd cancel the signal. The train would have its cabs drop, but at that point it pretty much would be making the turnout at 80. And it would have gotten, instead of having to go 45, 2 miles all the way from the start of Perry, it would have been able to do 80 miles an hour for the better part of that trip, or full speed. It was 80 miles an hour for the better part of that trip. Then the signal he was able to then line the Acela straight through, and the Acela would just roar through. And by that point, the timer at Oak would have run. So that was his trick to prevent an Acela. This is a 32 switch, by the way, Grace, but an Acela from getting banged up on the rear of a regional by speeding things up. Now with the new 562, I hope that they've increased the amount of signal. They've made a higher density. That they've used, increased the number of blocks to prevent that. But I've heard mixed messages on that front. I would not be surprised if they did not increase capacity by implementing a completely useless Rule 560, an otherwise useless Rule 562. And I say it's useless because the interlockings there, Prince, as you saw, Prince, Perry, Grace, and Oak, are back to back. If you're not adding phantom, extra blocks, there's no reason to make it cab signals without fixed wayside signals. Without ABS waysides. There are no ABS waysides. But I'm thinking that if they did, that's one of the bottlenecks it would relieve. Here we see the high-speed turnout, of course, at Oak. Now, again, I'm able to take a lot of pictures because we are being slowed down. We're on medium approach now, and we are being slowed down to. I think, you don't get an 80 at Grace if you're diverging at Oak. You get a 45 on approach medium at Grace. So we're going pretty slow here. We're not going to a stop, I'm pretty sure, because we're just single tracking because the bridge is out. Here we have the other end of the high-speed switch. Note two point machines on the movable point frog there. Okay, almost done. Yeah, I'm not quite sure if this is normal or reverse, but I guess it looks reverse. I mean, in theory, that center track, could be used for all sorts of passing. But like I said, there's so little traffic density in this part of the NEC that they just schedule the Acelas and the regionals far enough apart that it's not really an issue. But this is also one of the reasons that Oak interlocking has survived. Because Grace is... here we see the original color lights at Grace. Not original, but original replacement color lights at Grace, now replaced by position. And you can see the 90 permanent speed restriction for the Susquehanna River Bridge there. Almost done with this. So Oak is the next interlocking, and it used to be a bigger crossover and have to deal with that's interesting. The switch, I wonder why that is. Maybe it's some sort of protection against head-ons or something. I don't know. But the looks like the what is it? Previous page. Here at Oak, the 19 switch onto the Havre de Grace yard track is reverse, and that's inexplicable. It's sort of not really explicable there. Now, I'm just going to zoom in on that one little component there as best I can. That's the part that's interesting. I'm not sure why that 19 switch is reversed. Well, oh yeah, there's something in there. It looks like they just put a maintenance away vehicle in there, so that's why that's reversed. Very interesting, though. It's very rare to catch that switch reverse. Also, at Oak, it's still pneumatic. There's a crossover, as you can see here in the diagram. So here's your Oak, and here's Grace. So it's, like I said, it's kind of, there's never been a good full crossover on either side of the Susquehanna River Bridge. At Perry, you can go track 2 to track 3 north, or track 3 to track 3. I mean, there's a facing point crossover. At Grace, the combination of Grace and Oak gives you a trailing point crossover. So, if the track 3 is out over the bridge, you can bypass it on 2 easily enough. To go the other way requires trains to use that middle number 3 track between Grace, all the way between on the Aberdeen Peninsula, or to use Principo. So that's a much more inconvenient move. Oak 19 switch rev in the northbound direction. You can see the air plant. Yeah, they at some point a couple years after this, they replaced that pneumatic there with an electric. So here we have the crossover at Oak. Again, it's designed to get to serve as a partial thing for the Susquehanna River Bridge. Yeah, you can see that long air line of the 19 switch. I can see why they would have dumped that one, but why not make the whole interlocking electric at that point? Hey, I'm not complaining. Another interesting thing at Grace. So Perry, you got tracks 1, 2, 3, 4. Across the Susquehanna River Bridge, it's tracks 2 and 3. I mean, a lot of the tracks on the southern NEC are track 2, track 3, because the PR always assumed that there'd be more tracks than that. But at Grace, between Grace and Bush, it's tracks 2, 3, 4. So the interesting thing is, south of Bush, it's back. So at Bush interlocking, you actually have a switch 33, because the middle, even though the straight route is from track 4 to track 3, The middle track is track 3. This track 4 sort of appears, and even though it's a diverging route, track 3 is track 3 going to itself is a diverging route at Bush. So at Oak, this is the 43 switch. Here we have the other part of Oak interlocking. Here's something really interesting. Looking here at Oak, I was there recently, and you can see where the interlocking stuff is up over there. It's all overgrown. That's not overgrown anymore. It is completely cleared. There's a trailer park there. It doesn't look like it's that new. I'm not sure what was going on here, but this looks like it's a jungle pretty much. Alright, let's get rid of some of this red kookiness. Laters, need to do a little more manual red removal. Well, let's see what that looks like in the next picture. Last picture of the day. Yeah, pretty overgrown. Yeah, Amtrak has done a number of tree removal projects on the southern NEC as well. I think they got stimulus funds to do it, and they've been working through that. I don't have the pictures here, what it looks like of what Oak looks like today, unfortunately, to show you. But it's a lot more. I mean, the brush has been cut back dramatically. So we have the northbound signal bridge at Oak. And of course the track 4 thing can support the crossover. So all these can support. Let's see what happens here. Yeah, I'm not quite sure why the track 2 and track 4. So in theory, these should be. Initially you got the approach medium here at Oak on track 4, track 3 for Grace, and crossing over there when it was low speed. But now it's 80 mile an hour, so I assume you get cab speed on both of these signals. I don't know why they allow for approach medium. I guess it's a short signal distance, so if you're crossing over at Perry, but then again, why does then track 2 just not support anything? I don't know. That's strange. Yeah, I'm not sure what's up there. Oh, I know why, I think. Because, I know why. Because of gray, so, okay, here we go. Track 4 signal. It's got to do medium clear, medium approach. This guy has to do approach medium, and it has to do approach medium for medium approach at Grace when you're diverging to stop. Otherwise, it's cab speed. This guy just goes straight across. It'll just go clear to approach at Grace. That's what's up. See, you can always figure it out. Okie dokie. That is all for today. Man, I am hot as shit here. Let's see what's going on in the chat real quick before I close it out. Blah, blah, blah. Regarding SEPTA, yeah, Newark is okay. It's just a pain to get there, except for that one express run. Woodbourne, yeah, you can go there and hang out for freight trains, bring a lawn chair, or drive. It can get a little boring. Norristown line, yeah, take it to Norristown. You can walk down to CP Ford, or you can walk up to Elm Street. I don't know when freight action is sort of semi-random, so you got to watch out on that. Norristown line is slow as balls. I can't say it's a fun one, but it is slow. Anyway, that is pretty much it. Let me close down some stuff here. Thanks for watching. This is going to be, I'm not sure what I'm going to have in the future. This is one of my scheduled winter, quote-unquote, holiday season streams. Check my channel for a big drop of videos later tonight, and I will see what I can do later in the future with this. Anyway, thank you very much for watching, and I will catch you guys all later.